Welcome back to my channel. I'm Traven, and in today's video we're once again looking back at my week in review and talking about what is coming up next week as summer break finally starts. Pretty solid week this week. It was finals this week, so I had a lot of time to just sit around and read as my students were taking their tests. I threw a number of books, quite impressed with how this week went, and a number of really solid ones as well. We're going to start off with Guard in the Garden, which is the book that I received from my Caffeine and Legends Spring Awakening box. And this is a book by Z.S. Diamante, who also apparently has a separate series that's more of a serious, like your typical fantasy adventure story. This is more of a cozy fantasy, and I really felt like the introduction and the afterwards really helped to conceptualize what he was trying to do here. So this is a story of a dwarf who gets injured in this epic battle defending the city at the very start of the book, and then kind of gets knocked out of commission and has to struggle with the idea that he is not battle ready, that he is not going to be going back out on the field anytime soon. He has a cane. He has to walk around and take care of himself, not stretch himself too far. He learns to embrace a quieter life and one of more like contemplation and interpersonal relationships, gardening, these types of things. It was all very sweet and cute and very low stakes. If you're a fan of the low stakes fantasy, if you like Legends and Lattes, I would argue that this is possibly even less stakes than that. Like, nothing's really occurring that really threatens anything within this book. But I still felt it was very fun. I also feel like the length helps a lot in that. It's only about 200 pages, maybe a little bit over that. So it doesn't overstay its welcome. And this is the first in a series. There's going to be a follow-up that is in the same vein as far as tone is concerned, but takes completely different characters. So that will be Wagons and Wyverns, which I think comes out in August of this year. So I'll be taking a look at that. I really enjoyed this one. I really am a fan of cozy fantasy stories, and this one delivered on the very low stakes, very comfortable feeling. It was more about, again, the relationships and finding your place in the world. And the author wrote both in the foreword and the letter from the author at the end about how this was supposed to be a very personal book for him, talking about PTSD, soldiers returning from war and feeling like they don't have a place and they don't have purpose. There's information in the back for veterans who are needing help, and if you know a veteran who is struggling, the things that you can do to help. I thought that was also really important in understanding what this book was trying to do. I really liked it. Gave it 4 out of 5 stars. For what it was, it worked phenomenally well. Next up, I read You'd Look Better as a Ghost, which is one of my 25 for 2025. This is one of the 5 titles I have on the list that were just sitting on my shelf, and I'm trying to work through them. It's also the book my coworkers chose for our summer book club book, so we'll be talking about it later this month, and I'm very much looking forward to that. This is about a serial killer who is caught by someone, and there's this cat and mouse game of is she going to get caught? She's gotten sloppy, and it's meant to be humorous. Some of the humor didn't land for me, some of it did, but it really felt like a murder mystery from the perspective of the murderer, which I thought was a refreshing take. This one deals a lot with dementia, and again, the author has an author's note at the beginning talking about how the inspiration for this was the struggle with their own parent struggling with that condition. And so in the book as well, our protagonist, who again is a mass murderer, is dealing with the loss of her father after years of dementia eating away at his ability to recognize her and to remember the things that she went through as a child. So it does bounce between like the modern day and then has these before chapters that talk about her life every year on her birthday. I think from like age 5 to age 7 or 8. It's a snapshot of what's happening on her birthday, and she has a truly terrible upbringing, which does not justify the mass murder, but you at least get a sense of like what this character has gone through to make them who they are at this point. This is another one that I gave 4 stars. Something at the very end really bothered me, and I debated for a long time how much weight I was going to let that have over my overall rating of the book. I ultimately decided I wasn't going to give it too much power, and so it ended up as a 4 rather than a 3. But if you're looking for kind of a thriller with a different viewpoint, if you've read Come Closer or you've read Slights is another one that I read recently that I feel like kind of jives with this kind of storytelling where you are in the mind of a deranged individual, and part of the fun of it or part of the appeal of it is just seeing something from a perspective of a character who is definitely crazy, then you do well to pick this up. I think it is something refreshing and not something I've seen a whole lot of done well. It was fun throughout and it was amusing at times, so that's also a positive for it. So yeah, check it out if you're interested. Next up, another of my 25 for 2025, my shelf warmers. That is Ami, which is the second in the Guardians of Dawn series. The third one of this is coming out in, again, I think September maybe. So I wanted to make sure that I was caught up with this series. This is one of the YA books that I picked up that I felt actually worked really well. I really enjoyed it. I think this is right up there alongside any of the Lunar Chronicles books, which I really enjoyed and read through very quickly, read voraciously. This is a story about Ami and Zara, the protagonist of the first book, as they continue to deal with this world-shattering prophecy, this queen of demons coming back. It's very much in the vein of like a Sailor Moon with these Chinese influences, where each one of the Guardians of Dawn has an opposite general from the opposing evil side, and each of their books is like confronting that villain and dealing with them. And then I'm sure we're going to get up to like a book 4 or a book 5 and have to deal with the main antagonist. So far, what I've really appreciated from this series is not only do I feel like it's well written and the characters are all unique, they're all archetypes, but they're done really well. But I also like that it's unclear where the story is really going to be heading. This one, we learn about a completely different prophecy of this. I can't remember what it is. Like this, the Star King, something like that. So there's this other character who's wrapped up in another bit of lore from this world that's equally important in this ongoing saga of the Guardians of Dawn. And now they've found 2 of these scrolls, this book that they're trying to put together. There's 2 more. So it really has a feeling of like this epic quest. It reminds me a lot of Dungeons and Dragons, some of the campaigns I've run in the past or I've played in the past. And also of, like I said, like a Sailor Moon or maybe like a Super Sentai series where you've got like villain generals and they're working up to the big bad, and every time that they cross paths they learn a little bit something more about their power, about the prophecy, about their role in the world, and so it all works really well. A great YA series if that's something you're looking into. I would definitely recommend Guardians of Dawn. Zara was a 5 out of 5. Ami gets a 4 out of 5 because I felt like it was a little bit too short, and I felt like the end was rushed. It didn't feel as weighty as I remember the conclusion of the first book feeling. Also this week, I found my copy of Volatile Bonds, which I was reading at the beginning of the school year and lost, and I found it in another one of the teacher's classrooms on his bookshelf, and I was like, hey, I'm pretty sure that's mine. It's the fourth in a series that no one's read in a very long time. It also had my bookmark in it, so it was definitely my copy. And so I finished this out. This is the last in the Prospero Wars series, which wrapped up. This is the last book. This wrapped in like 2017. I don't think we're getting any more, and that's a shame because as the last book in the series, it's got some issues. So I think a lot of the other books in the series I gave 4 or 5 stars to. Volatile Bonds ended up at a 3. Not because it's a bad book, but because it's a bad sequel. It's a bad entry in this series for a couple of different reasons. There are some character inconsistencies with this book. Like, book 3 did a lot to build up our protagonist, Kate, to be able to move past some of the issues she was having. Another issue with this book is it just doesn't feel like the epic conclusion of a series. And by the end of it, there are still major players at large who we have indications of their role in a larger narrative that's just never going to come to fruition. The Prospero War series is basically like Magic CSI. Magic is a drug, everything is potions, there's like clean cooking, and then there's like dirty magic, and both have consequences, both have like negative results of using them. The entire time we've been dealing with this turf war between 3 of the major players in the Cauldron, city where the story takes place, and they've kind of waned in power over the course of the series. So the leader of one ended up passing away, giving it to his son, who was not as strong of a leader. In this one, we deal with the leader of another one of the major 3 groups, and there's still one more player out who is, I feel like, was being set up as the main antagonist, and we're just going to drop it. Like, there are definitely no more books in this series, and this one really just felt like a side story. It felt good. Like, if it was in isolation, it would be a solid cop magic story, urban fantasy story, but as the conclusion of the Prospero War series, it leaves a lot to be desired. So 3 stars for me, because it is the end of a series that I don't feel wrapped up as strongly as it could have. If you're reading the Prospero War series, which I would recommend, I think you can stop after book 3. Book 3 had a really good finale to it. I feel like characters were at the best place at the end of book 3. This one's a nice side story if you just absolutely need to know everything that happens to the characters, but I don't feel like it ends on a note of finality, a note of like, this is the conclusion of the series. Last book I want to talk about, I technically read 3 or 4 times, but I'm not sure how we're really going to define this one. I'm not really counting it for any of my reads, but it is Make Your Own Slasher, which is a choose-your-own-adventure story. I believe this is originally written in French and then translated to English, but it's part of a trend that's seeing a bit of resurgence in books that are like RPG or choose your own adventure for adults. I think that EasyCat had a video on a series recently that does a similar thing with like going through and having stats and keeping track of things. This one deals with this is like a light RPG. It's got some dice rolls. It's got a couple of different stats you have to track. But I wanted to bring this one up because I'll probably be streaming this sometime next week, as I've got a lot of extra time. And it is a bookish kind of game, so I like doing that. So yeah, let me know if you'd be interested in watching a run-through or maybe a couple of run-throughs of Make Your Own Slasher. And we can like have the chat make some choices. It'll be a lot of fun. So look forward to that sometime next week. Now let's talk about what I plan on reading this week. I'm rating pretty high on how much I got read this week, so we're going to try to be ambitious in the following week. I've got a number of comics I want to get through. I also have a number of books. I was looking over my challenges for this year. I started this year with a video on like 10 new series I wanted to take a look at this year. So far I've looked at 2, 1.5. And so I want to get into some more of that. I've also got some comics I would like to read and get through a few more of my 25 for 2025. So let's talk about my pile for next week. So I've started off with No One. This is part of the Massive Verse, which includes Radiant Black and Rogue Sun and a number of other titles that I really enjoy reading. This is called No One, and it is the Batman of this universe. So this is the character who has no powers, but he still lives in a world of essentially like Super Sentai, Kamen Rider-esque superheroes. And so this is Volume 1. I picked it up just a few days ago, and it is part of my 25 for 2025, so very excited to take a look at that one. I have the next House of Slaughter. I brought this up on a readathon one night, maybe a week or so ago. So this is number 5, The Butcher's War. So this is one of the side stories in the Something is Killing the Children universe, and I believe this one takes place largely in the past of the main timeline that we're following, but I'm very interested in seeing this one. This one is kind of a follow-up to, I think, the first line or the first comic of House of Slaughter dealt with this character. So we're going to have a follow-up on a character that we already know a little bit about. So very much looking forward to that one. As far as book series that I said that I would take a look at, I'm reading through Empire of Silence right now. I don't think I'm going to get through that this week, but it is the first in the Sun Eater series. I also have like a whole bunch of the Murderbot Diary books, and these are super short, and so I'm hoping that I will get through a number of these this week. That's one of my priorities. I have my Fairy Loot book, which is The Glittering Edge. This deals with magic and romance, so we shall see how that goes. But since I am only one book behind, this is the only Fairy Loot book I have at the moment, really want to get it so that we don't end up with a backlog again. Finally, some other things I might take a look at this week are books 2 and 3 from the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. I picked these up with the express idea of reading them over the summer. We have Carl's Doomsday Scenario and the Anarchist Cookbook. This is book 2. This is book 3. I got the new hardcover editions that are coming out. I'm also going to I think I'm going to reorder book 1 in the hardcover because I really like the art on these covers. So they had like through 6 or 7 at the store. But yeah, I couldn't justify that many. So we have the next 2. That's a pretty large, ambitious pile for a single week. I don't think I'm going to get to all of those, but those are all the potential titles to look at for this next week. So come back next week, see what I've finished up. Also, hopefully dropping this week, I think I'm finally going to get the bookmark tag done, and I'll probably put up a review on Thursday because I really wanted to do just a book review again. Look forward to that. I plan on doing some more live streams this week. I've got some bookish games, some bookish video games I want to look at. I've got the Create Your Own Slasher book. So be on the lookout for those events. As always, I hope your reading journey is going well. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to grow this corner of our BookTube community. And until the next one, take care.